We imagine the manipulator as a chess grandmaster, cold, calculating, several moves ahead of everyone in the room, someone with surgical precision, a deep understanding of psychology, a strategist's patience. That image is almost entirely wrong. Real manipulation, the kind that infects families, friendships, workplaces, and every level of power, is almost never born from sophisticated intelligence. It is born from desperation, from emotional immaturity, from the frantic improvisation of a mind that never developed the ability to get what it wants through honesty or competence. And here is what makes this dangerous. If you believe you are dealing with a grandmaster, you respond with complexity. You analyze, you philosophize, you wonder what you missed. And while you are busy being intelligent, the person with the emotional awareness of a frightened child has already gotten exactly what they wanted. Over 500 years ago, a man named Niccolo Machiavelli saw this with terrifying clarity. What he understood about how ordinary people control extraordinary minds is something most of us never learn, until it is far too late. Machiavelli was born in Florence in 1469, a world where rulers were poisoned, alliances expired overnight, and the gap between what powerful people said and did was not a flaw, but a feature. He observed this as a diplomat, a civil servant, and eventually a prisoner of the system he served. What emerged was not a manual for cruelty, but for seeing clearly. His central insight: human beings are driven by appetite and fear, not reason or virtue. What matters is not what you are, but what you appear to be. And manipulation is not a weapon of the brilliant. It is a survival mechanism of the weak. When someone cannot compete through merit or persuade through reason, they manipulate. They create chaos so disorienting that clear thinking becomes impossible. The weak do not overpower the strong through strength. They undermine them through confusion. The very traits that make you intelligent make you exploitable. Your logical consistency. You hold yourself to rigorous standards, but someone with no such commitment can shift positions instantly while you exhaust yourself trying to make their argument coherent. You are playing chess, they are flipping the board. Your empathy, genuine empathy, has no defense against performed suffering. It extends the same concern to manipulation as to a real crisis. Your patience. In a manipulative dynamic, it becomes prolonged tolerance for something you should have exited long ago. Your discomfort with being perceived as unfair. The most reliable way to paralyze someone who cares about fairness is to continuously accuse them of being unfair. Machiavelli would have recognized every one of these vulnerabilities instantly. The person who becomes unpredictably angry, tearful, or accusatory creates an environment where the emotional temperature is always yours to manage. You stop analyzing and start reacting. Intelligent people fall into this because they believe emotional distress is a meaningful signal. And it usually is. What they don't account for is that distress can be deployed rather than experienced. That chaos can be an instrument, not a symptom. The response is not more analysis. It is early, decisive recognition of the pattern. A person who is suffering cannot, by usual conventions, be held accountable. Confronting them feels like cruelty. Setting a boundary feels like abandonment. This creates permanent asymmetry. The performer is protected, everyone else is potentially guilty. Demands are made without being named as demands. Blame is assigned without visible aggression, and you, because of your ethical seriousness, audit your own behavior instead of questioning the premise. While you examine whether you truly caused their unhappiness, the foundational accusation goes completely unchallenged. Machiavelli warned that the person who relies entirely on others' goodwill for security has no security at all. Under time pressure, human beings default to instinct over analysis. The manipulator who creates urgency understands this, not through theory, but through experience. The sudden crisis, the fabricated deadline, the declaration that everything collapses unless you decide immediately. You, who might reach a clear and unfavorable conclusion given 3 days of thought, are denied those 3 days by a crisis that conveniently requires your response right now. The philosophical counter is deceptively simple. Urgency imposed from outside must always be distinguished from urgency that genuinely exists. The calm insistence on taking time is one of the most powerful acts of cognitive self-defense available to you. If something in this video has made you see a pattern you had not named before, you are not alone. This channel exists to make the invisible visible. If that matters to you, subscribe. We are only halfway through, and the tactics ahead are the ones that do the most damage. Everyone agrees with me. People have noticed how you behave. I am not the only one who thinks this. These statements invoke the deepest social fear, the fear of exile, of being the lone dissenter, of being wrong in a way the entire group has already recognized. The manipulator using this tactic rarely provides evidence. The suggestion of consensus is enough, and you, because you genuinely do not dismiss the possibility of being wrong, give weight to a claim that may have no basis beyond one person's willingness to state it with confidence. Machiavelli understood that reputation could be fabricated and attacked. His counsel was consistent. Build your understanding of reality on direct observation. What someone tells you others believe is a category of information entirely separate from what others actually believe. Your arguments tend to be complex. Your positions are qualified, careful, full of nuance that reflects real intellectual humility. All of that nuance becomes, in the hands of someone arguing in bad faith, infinite material for distortion. They simplify your position into something extreme. They extract half a sentence from its context. You correct. They misrepresent the correction. The conversation drifts so far from its origin that no one can track what was actually said. This is the goal, not to win on merit, but to make the argument so exhausting that your original point is abandoned. You eventually fall silent, and the silence is read as surrender. This tactic works through volume, not strategy. Endless grievances, circular arguments, and demands that wear you down over time. Each interaction seems minor, but together they cause psychological depletion, leaving you less capable, less resilient, and dependent on the very relationship that drains you. You're vulnerable because you believe problems can be solved, but not every conflict is solvable, and commitment to resolution with someone who has no interest in it is not virtue, it's vulnerability. The manipulator positions themselves as the most principled person in the room, making every decision subject to their review against shifting, impossible-to-satisfy standards. Defending yourself accepts their premise. The person claiming the highest ethical ground isn't necessarily the one who occupies it. Recognizing this distinction between genuine moral seriousness and the strategic performance of moral language is learning to see beneath appearance to reality. Machiavelli doesn't teach cruelty. He teaches clear seeing, perceiving things as they are, not as they appear, understanding human motivation without wishful thinking, recognizing that the world does not automatically reward the good or punish the wicked. The lesson is to be awake, not cruel. Awareness is the disciplined habit of observing patterns, questioning performed narratives, and matching words to consistent actions. Machiavelli's deepest lesson isn't manipulation, it's sovereignty. Sovereignty over your perceptions, your responses, and the story you accept about yourself. Observe patterns, not isolated episodes. Cultivate deliberate delay. When pressured for an immediate answer, time dissolves their power. Tolerate not knowing. You don't need to diagnose intent, only notice what consistently degrades your judgment. Use silence strategically. A misrepresentation requires an argument to distort. Recognize that your ethical virtues, fairness, honesty, are not obligations in every context. The same response wise in good faith becomes catastrophic in bad faith. Manipulators don't outthink you. They change the terrain so intelligence is irrelevant. They displace your thinking, not defeat it. Which tactic did you recognize first? Name it below. That recognition is the beginning of something Machiavelli would respect, the refusal to be fooled twice. If this reached you, subscribe. This isn't just content. It's armor you didn't know you needed.